It's good to see that Jodie Comer's career is finally starting to take flight. I feel like if last year hadn't happened, this would have occurred sooner, as she was already a cameo in The Rise of Skywalker. She's obviously the heart and soul of Killing Eve, which used to be a great show, but is now starting to get a bit silly. So now's a great time for Comer to spread her wings and show off her talents to the world. It's sad, though, that her first leading lady part was in this. Free Guy is exactly what the trailers told you it was going to be, though admittedly the trailers were slightly misleading in terms of plot points. I'll at least commend the marketing for this film, as it seemed like the whole story was in the trailers. It still is really, but not in the same way. But yes, other than that, it's entirely what's sold. It's another Ryan Reynolds vehicle where Ryan Reynolds plays the part he's been playing basically his entire career. It's a character that's begun to wear very thin on me, but if you're not bored of Reynolds' usual shtick, then I'm sure you'll love every overlong minute of this. For me, though, the routine of sarcasm and soon-to-be dated pop culture references is boring, and none of anything Ryan Reynolds said ever succeeded in making me laugh. Okay, maybe one or two things made me giggle a bit. But it's not just Reynolds that's playing to type in this. No, Taika Waititi is also playing an obnoxious idiot, much like Korg, but a lot more of an arsehole, essentially. He's playing the film's villain, Antoine, who's the head of the developer that runs the game Reynolds' Guy is an NPC in. Waititi fails to be funny at all, as he rolls around the set shouting at all the extras being an underworked clown. He's very much a stereotypical nasty boss character and has all the jokes you'd expect him to make. Jodie Comer feels completely out of place in this film, if I'm completely honest. Villanelle in Killing Eve is a funny character at times, but essentially she's meant to be a terrifying and deadly assassin. It's a bit of a step down then for Comer to be playing what is essentially just the run-of-the-mill lead in a romantic comedy. She does have some agency in the plot, but she's essentially just there to kiss people in the end. I can only hope that Jodie Comer gets something much better down the line, as this is definitely not what she deserves after such a great performance in Killing Eve. I could moan about the story a lot. I could moan about how a lot of it doesn't make any sense, and that if you know anything about video games, then a lot of what happens won't seem believable to you. But in a Ryan Reynolds comedy, things like this just aren't really thought too much about by the writers or the audience, so there's not really any point going into that. Suffice to say, Free City would never work as a game in this day and age. That being said, the film is way too long. Really, I don't think comedy should be much longer than 90 minutes generally, and this is proof of that. A lot of it feels quite slow, and there's points that just weren't needed. What should have been thought about, though, by the writers was the comedy, and that's where the film fell completely flat for me. The humour is all just internet memes, pop culture references, and some really forced quote-unquote political satire. It's all very lazy jokes with nothing clever or witty about them. As this is a film about video games, obviously the film has to mock video game players, and of course there's just loads of stereotypes of children playing in their mum's basement and yelling things like troll and noob. It's clear the writers knew as much about the gaming community as they do about games themselves. There are several cameos, which took me by surprise, but saying here's a famous person you may know isn't a joke. It just shows that you've got money and context. With all that being said, though, the people in the screening I was in were laughing at almost every joke, so maybe I'm just old and boring. Like with everything I've said before, if you like Ryan Reynolds playing himself, then you will laugh a lot, I'm very sure. Free Guy is written and directed by children and is for children. There's actually some really good moments in the script that are completely ruined by childish directing. Though the special effects are often quite impressive, the film itself is far from that, and this is the very definition of Hollywood schlock. The film practically feels like a parody of a rom-com at points. Free Guy gets a Deight score of 5. Happy dating, you loners.